The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by BASF Canada and Invigor Hybrid Canola. Shaun Haney of RealAgriculture.com here for another episode of the Canola School. Today I'm joined by Bruce Mackinnon. He is Tech Service Specialist with BASF based out of Southern Alberta. Hey, Bruce, great to chat with you.
Hey, Shaun. Good afternoon.
So today, Bruce, we're going to talk about stacked canola hybrids. Okay, so what exactly is that?
A stacked canola basically is a canola that has two traits in it, a glyphosate trait, TrueFlex, and the Liberty Link trait. So it gives the growers flexibility to use either glyphosate or Liberty on their canola, and they can use both, but not together.
This is in some ways relatively new, in other ways not. We have seen this kind of stacked technology in a crop like corn, for example, and we have it in canola. What is the situation where I would consider having, like, say, a TrueFlex trait and a Liberty Link trait in the same canola hybrid? Where does that fit?
It really starts with good resistant management, whether it's broadleaf or grassy resistance, because you got a group 9 and a group 10 option to spray. So that's one. Weed control, if you're a little concerned about how well the Liberty will do on grasses, or in some cases, how well glyphosate will do on broadleaves like buckwheat, then you have that versatility of having that stack trait. And depending what you scout and what you see, you can use one or the other with great flexibility and a nice rate range, so you get the most out of each product.
Okay, we're going to talk about the flexibility here in a second. Where does it not have a fit?
It potentially maybe in Roundup Ready crops. So if you're in a tight rotation where you may have soybeans or Roundup Ready corn, and you don't want to have that volunteer show up, and you're going to go into the crop with maybe a straight Roundup into a Roundup Ready soybean or a Roundup Ready corn, that's a potential limitation. Although you have tank mix options to look after it, but that is a bit of a limitation. And otherwise, it is the flexibility. I mean, we have lots of different groups that we can do, and whether it's post-harvest or pre-seed in front of the next year crop, that can look after that volunteer. So sometimes growers will get hung up on the volunteer, that now we have a group 9 and 10 stacked volunteer out there. So
Yeah, I would think that would be the barrier for some people, is to kind of get their head wrapped around, whoa, wait a minute. Volunteer canola is a major issue on my farm. Am I making the situation worse? And what's the answer to that?
no, we have lots of tools that we can throw in with our glyphosate for pre-seed, post-harvest, and then, if we're going back and following a good rotation, falling back into cereals the following year after canola, there's lots of good options of group 27, group 4, group 2, group 6 that we can look after that volunteer quite easily within, whether it's in crop or prior to the crop.
Interesting. So when we and right now, obviously, we're spray season is very much in full effect, and growers are out doing their scouting. If they're looking at their fields, and they're identifying some of the issues, and it's time to kind of already think about next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So connect some dots for me here in terms of where it works. Like, if I saw X in the field, that leads me to, hey, this may be a good option in my farm for 25.
So let's say we're thinking about a pulse crop after canola. And maybe we're a little limited on the weed control due to maybe some resistant weeds. And maybe I could utilize, for the broadleaf, I can utilize the group 10 if I'm dealing with kochia. And then if I have some wild oats and or downy brome with group 9 or group 1 resistant for the wild oats, or green foxtail, I can go ahead and use the glyphosate. So I can clean up that field within the canola crop and set myself up, say, for a lentil or chickpea crop the following year, depending where I'm at, or maybe even a faba bean crop further north in central and Alberta and Saskatchewan. So it gives you that flexibility. It does make you think a little bit and manage it a little bit more in crop at the time, and then, like you say, thinking ahead, what am I following up with this the following year?
Yeah.
The nice thing about both products, you're not worried about recropping the following year. So that flexibility is really great with both glyphosate and Liberty.
It does take some paying attention to what, where am I going with this field?
Yep.
There's that there definitely is that part of it. Bruce, do you think that this is something we're going to see more of in the future for growers as a tool, or is it still going to remain, it's a select amount of acres and people use it where it really has a fit on certain fields? Like what do you see the future kind of looking like?
The adoption rate now has been pretty low and pretty limited. I think as we develop potentially more resistant weeds that either the group 9 or 10 can really benefit us, that might allow the more acres and more on the farm for selective fields that growers need to manage some troublesome weeds. So it's not out of the realm that that it will grow. It's just a matter of how growers want to utilize it on their farm. I don't see a grower going 100% across the farm, but they might be taking a quarter or a half that's got some weeds showing up that they want to make sure they setting themselves up for the next crop, typically a pulse crop that's a little bit more limited in weed control.
And just so I get this straight, so because this is one of those, potentially dumb questions, but the growers have the flexibility on which of the products they want to use. They're not necessarily doing one pass of Liberty and then a pass of Roundup. They're just having the flexibility in what they want to go with, right?
They have that flexibility. It's not a combo that you can tank mix,
Right.
but
It's two
but
passes.
typically, yeah, which is too bad. But typically, they will probably do one of each.
Okay.
If
They
they're
do
doing
that.
if they're doing two apps, I mean, if you only needed one of the glyphosate or one of the Liberty, then you would stick with a TrueFlex or an Vigor Liberty Link canola. This gives them options. Okay, on certain grass, say my grassy weeds are up first, and like they are this year, wild oats are cool and wet spring so far. Wild oats are there, so maybe I go in my glyphosate first, and then my kochia comes flushes a little later. I come back with my Liberty. So you do use each one, not necessarily always using the glyphosate first. You could use the Liberty first and then come back with the glyphosate. So that's why scouting is really, really important. See what you're dealing with, and then picking the best herbicide for the weeds that you're dealing with as your option. So that's how I look at it and how I talk to my growers about it that do have Invigor choice.
Okay, so not a dumb question. There you go. I like it.
No, 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 not a dumb question at all.
Well, hey, Bruce, thanks a lot for joining us here on this episode of the Canola School.
Thanks, Shaun.